Learning outcomes. After studying this module, you shall be able to first know the generally accepted accounting principles, learn the different accounting concepts and their interpretation, identify fundamental accounting assumptions, evaluate the need of accounting policies, as well analyze the effects of accounting concepts and conventions. After the introduction, there are various users of accounting information. Each category of user is interested directly or indirectly in financial performance of the entity. Their purpose is served if and only if the accounts are reliable and comparable. These should be prepared on the basis of consistent accounting concepts, conventions and policies. If the financial information fulfills all the above features, then the information becomes comparable. This comparison may be inter-firm or even intra-firm. The theory base of accounting consists of different principal concepts, conventions, fundamental accounting assumptions and accounting policies, rules, guidelines, etc. In this module, all these parameters have been discussed in detail. Now we come to generally accepted accounting principles. The meaning of it is, when financial statements are prepared by the accountants, certainly on the basis of some principles, there are rules to be adhered by these professionals in this accounting process. The standard framework is required to be followed so as to maintain reliability and relevance. GAAP, as we know, generally accepted accounting principles include all those regulatory provisions which are available in the form of principles, concepts, conventions, guidance notes, standards, rules, act, laws and etc. Although it is inevitable for this noble profession to follow standardized rules, but GAAP are not uniform globally. For example, in India, companies are preparing financial statements as per Indian GAAP. But the multinational companies like Infosys operating in India are preparing their statements on the basis of both Indian and US GAAP. Now we come to its definition. As per statement number 4 of the Accounting Principles Board given by the USA, generally accepted accounting principles incorporate the consensus at a particular time so as to which economic resources and obligations should be recorded as assets and liabilities by financial accounting changes in assets and liabilities should be recorded. When these changes are to be recorded, how the assets and liabilities changes in them should be measured, what information should be disclosed and which financial statements should be prepared. Now let's come to accounting concepts. First, the meaning of which is, the financial statements are prepared on the basis of certain assumptions and basic principles. These are defined by accounting concepts. Now what are accounting concepts? These are those concepts which are laid down the foundation for accounting principles. The accounting concepts are broad working rules for all accounting activities from recording to interpretation and have been developed by accounting profession. There are specific accounting concepts which are relevant at the time of recording, like dual aspect concept, money measurement concept, entity concept, etc. Some of the concepts are concerned with the recognition of revenue, like realization concept, whereas accounting period concept, matching concept, going concern concept, etc. are related with income measurement and determination of financial position. These concepts lay the foundation for sound structure of accounting and are the foundation of systematic and proper accounting. Now let's come to business entity concept. This is the concept which recognizes that business and owner are two separate and distinct entities. It means when proprietor introduces money in the business, the accountant records it as a liability, that is capital. Similarly, when proprietor withdraws any amount from his personal purposes or for his personal purposes, then it is treated as drawings. This concept requires recording the transactions from the firm's point of view and not from the proprietor. The owner is treated as a creditor for his investment in the business. Let's take an example. If Shyam has started his business with rupees 5 lakh in cash, he purchased goods for rupees 25,000 out of it and machinery for 1 lakh, furniture for 40,000. Now, the net effect of these transactions may be disclosed in the statement called as balance sheet in the following manner. Okay, now let's make balance sheet. On the left hand side, you will mention liabilities, and on right hand side, you will mention assets. In the liability side, let's first mention the capital amount of rupees 5 lakh, and on the assets side, first mention the machinery amount of 1 lakh, furniture amount of 40,000, stock amount of 25,000, and cash in hand that will amount to 3,35,000. That will make the total of 5 lakh on both the sides. This means that enterprise owns rupees 5 lakh to Mr. Shyam. This concept is required to determine business profit and its state of affairs correctly. That is why it is applicable to all types of entities including sole proprietorship. Now let's come to dual aspect concept. It is the basic principle of accounting. This concept recognizes that there are two aspects of each and every transaction. Let's take an example. If machinery is purchased by the business on cash basis, then on the one hand, machinery is coming into the business, but on the other hand, cash is going out of business. This dual effect may be first to increase in asset and decrease in asset, or increase or decrease in both assets and liabilities, or increase in liability and decrease in liability. This concept is the core principle of accounting and is called as double entry system of bookkeeping. Now let's come to the cost concept. The cost concept indicates measurement base that is used in accounting, particularly for fixed assets. According to this concept, an asset purchased is recorded in the books of accounts at the price paid to acquire it, that is, at its cost of acquisition and not at its market price. The cost refers to the amount of cash or cash equivalent paid or payable for purchase of such asset. The cost concept is highly objective because it is derived from an independent transaction between two parties. However, this concept has many drawbacks like assumption of stable purchasing power, lack of comparability, and etc. Now let's start with going concern concept. According to Kohler, a going concern is defined as an enterprise which is expected to continue operating indefinitely in the future. Indefinite existence means that the business enterprise will not be wound up within the foreseeable future and therefore would be able to meet its contractual obligations and use its resources according to the plans and predetermined goals. Now, according to Accounting Standard 1 issued by ICAI, going concern implies that the enterprise has neither the intention nor the necessity of liquidation or curtailing materially the scale of operations. Going concern is one of the fundamental accounting assumptions. Because of application of this concept, fixed and current assets are categorized. Okay, now let's come to money measurement concept. As per this concept, only those transactions and events are recorded which can be measured in the terms of money only. Money is the medium of exchange, as we all know that. Most of the business transactions and events are settled in money terms. There may be some important transactions which are incapable of being converted into monetary terms. For example, managing ability of managers, retirement of key personnel, etc. Okay, now let's come to accounting period concept. This concept is also called as periodicity concept. The going concern concept assumes an indefinite life of the entity. But we cannot wait up to the end of the life of business in order to calculate the net result of business operations. That is why a small but workable fraction of time is selected out of the infinite life cycle of the business entity. This period is called as accounting period concept. Usually, a period of 12 months is considered, which again may be calendar year or financial year or any other. Now let's start with accrual concept. This concept requires to recognize the revenues if they belong to relevant accounting period, irrespective of whether cash or cash equivalent has been received or not. Expenses are recognized initially as per matching concept. That is, if they are related to the revenues earned. The accrual concept advocates including such expenses which have been recognized as per matching concept, whether they have been paid or not. It may be noted that the alternative approach is cash basis of accounting, in which the revenues and expenses are recognized in the period in which they are received or paid, irrespective of the period to which they belong. Okay, now let's start with realization concept. It deals with the timing of recognition of revenue. For example, business transaction includes many activities at different points of time. First activity to be taken, receipt of proposal of order. Second, acceptance of order. Third, issue of material, expenses incurred towards processing of completion of order. Next, completion of order and ready for delivery. Fifth, dispatch of order and invoice raised. Sixth, receipt by the customer. Seventh, receipt of cash or cash equivalent. Now, a question arises about the point of time at which revenues may be recognized. The answer is given by realization concept. As per this concept, revenue is recognized when goods or services are transferred and a consideration or promise of consideration is received. Obviously, in the above context, the revenue recognition time is time 6. It is important to note that time 5 is not the correct time, because unless goods are delivered to the customer and accepted by him, the promise is not obtained and the sale cannot be recognized. Now let's come to matching concept. In accounting, profit is always calculated for a particular accounting year. The profit is the axis of revenue over expense. This profit is always calculated in respect of a specified period. In order to determine the profit or losses accrued in an accounting period, the expenses must relate to the goods or services sold during the period. At every first step, the accounting period is decided, followed by recognition of revenues related with that period. The matching concept requires that the expenses for an accounting period are to be matched against related revenues rather than cash received or cash paid. This concept leads to adjustment of certain items like prepaid and outstanding expenses, unearned or accrued incomes. Now let's come to the accounting conventions, out of which the first is convention of conservatism. It is quite logical not to be optimistic about the possible inflow of revenues. In fact, the revenues are to be recognized only when they are reasonably certain. If we identify the expected profits in the books of account, then we may be recognizing an amount which may never be realized. But losses are to be recognized as soon as they are reasonably possible. So this convention takes into consideration all prospective losses but not the prospective profits. Now let's start with convention of consistency. According to the convention of consistency, same accounting policies should be adopted over different accounting periods. It helps in better understanding of accounting information and make accounts more comparable. For example, if straight line method has been adopted for providing depreciation in first 2 years, followed by written down value in next 2 years, and again another method in following year, then profits revealed by these accounts will not be comparable. So, the accounting policy once adopted should not be changed. But it does not mean that practice once adopted cannot be changed, because consistency is not an excuse to continue with inappropriate accounting policies. Another one is convention of full disclosure. According to this convention, all the economic activities of a business entity should be completely and understandably reported in the financial statements. Most of the material information is legally required to be disclosed, yet there could be some information which, though not legally required to be disclosed, but is required to serve this basic purpose. Therefore, this information should also be disclosed. Now let's come to convention of materiality. The financial health of the enterprise is generally viewed through their financial statements. But it is possible if and only if these statements fulfill the criteria of true and fair. This criterion also depends upon the concept of materiality. Any information is said to be material if its knowledge might influence the economic decision of the users. It is the subjective and relative term. Information may be material for one but not for another. Due to application of this convention, paise may be rounded off to rupee while recording a transaction. Similarly, it is useless to record each item of stationery separately like pens, pencils, stapler pins, etc. Materiality should be considered both individually as well as in aggregate. Now let's come to fundamental accounting assumptions. The meaning of it is the financial statements are prepared and presented with some assumptions called as basic accounting fundamental assumptions. According to Accounting Standard 1, these assumptions are usually not specifically stated because their acceptance and use are assumed. But disclosure is necessary if there is any departure in this regard. It means so as long fundamental accounting assumptions are followed in preparation of financial statements, no disclosure of such adherence is necessary. Now let's come to its components. According to the Accounting Standard 1, disclosure of accounting policies, there are three fundamental accounting assumptions which are as follows. The first is going concern. A business entity is assumed to carry on its business operations forever. This is because it is difficult to envisage any economic activity on the part of a business entity if its liquidation were shortly expected. According to AS1, the enterprise is normally viewed as going concern and continuing in operation for the foreseeable future. It is assumed that the enterprise has neither the intention nor the necessity of closing the operations. Next we come to consistency. The principle of consistency refers to the practice of using same accounting policies for similar transactions in all accounting periods. The consistency improves comparability of financial statements through time. An accounting policy can be changed if change is required. First, by statute. Second, by an accounting standard. Or third, for more appropriate presentation of accounting statements. Now the next point is accrual. As we have already discussed, the accrual basis of accounting. Here the transactions are recording as soon as they occur, whether or not cash or cash equivalent is actually received or paid. Accrual basis ensures better matching between revenue and cost and profit or loss obtained on this basis, which reflects the activities of enterprise during an accounting period rather than cash flows generated by it. The accrual basis can overstate the divisible profits, as there is a risk of recognizing an income before actual receipt. The dividend decisions based on such overstated profit may lead to erosion of capital. For this reason, accounting standards require that no revenue should be recognized unless the amount of consideration and actual realization of the consideration is reasonably certain. Now we come to some accounting policies. As we have discussed earlier also, Accounting Standard 1, the accounting policies refer to the specific accounting principles and the methods of applying those principles adopted by the enterprise in the preparation and presentation of financial statements. For example, depreciation policy will comprise of rules for regulation of depreciation, the measurement and treatment of depreciation, etc. Since each and every entity has its own operating environment, no single list can be prepared about the policies which are equally and uniformly applicable to all entities. The following are some of the areas wherein different accounting policies are available. First, method of depreciation, whether straight line or written down value. Next, valuation of inventories, weighted average, FIFO, etc. Next, valuation of investments and fixed assets like cost, market value, replacement value, etc. Like treatment of contingent liabilities, treatment of goodwill, recognition of profit on long-term contracts, treatment of retirement benefits, etc., treatment of expenditure during construction period, the choice of the appropriate accounting principles and the methods of applying those principles to an enterprise depend on the circumstances in which the enterprise operates. Now let's come to the factors affecting the selection of accounting policies. Under this, some of the major considerations are: first, primary consideration. The true and fair value of financial statements is one of the most important factors to be considered in the selection of accounting policies. Other consideration: in addition to primary considerations, 3 factors are also considered in such selection, which are as follows. First, prudence. It means conservatism. It requires not to anticipate profits but to recognize the expenses. The profits are not anticipated in the view of uncertainty associated with future events. Provision should be created for all known liabilities and losses, even though the amount cannot be determined with certainty and represents only the best estimate in the light of available information. Due to prudence, profits are overstated, losses are not understated, assets are not overstated, as well the liabilities are not understated. It may be noted that prudence does not permit creation of hidden reserve. Next, substance over form. It means that the transaction and events relating to business should be accounted for as per their economic reality with reference to actual happening in true sense and not in accordance with the legal sense. The accounting treatment and presentation should be governed by their substance and not merely by legal form. For example, in the hire purchase transaction, if the assets are purchased, then the assets are shown in the books of hire purchase in spite of the fact that the hire purchase is not the legal owner of the assets purchased. In fact, the purchase becomes owner only on payment of last installment. Therefore, we ignore the legal form of the transaction and account the transaction as per its substance. Now we come to materiality. All material, substantial, important items should be disclosed. The items are said to be material if the knowledge of it might influence the decisions of user of financial statements. Materiality is not always a matter of relative size. Okay, now let's come to disclosure of accounting policies. The different accounting policies are followed by different entities in the preparation of financial statements. The results of financial statements are significantly influenced by the accounting policies which have been followed by the enterprise. For example, if an entity has acquired a machinery at ₹80,000 and they provide depreciation at 10% per annum on written down value basis, then the depreciation would be ₹8,000 followed by 7,200 in the second year. Alternatively, if the rate is increased to 20%, then these figures would become ₹16,000, ₹14,400. It is clear that in order to understand and comprehend the views presented in financial statements requires adequate disclosure of significant accounting policies. As per previous comments or discussion of accounting standard 1 on disclosure of accounting policies issued by ICAI to ensure proper understanding of financial statements, it is necessary that all significant accounting policies adopted in the preparation and presentation of financial statement should be disclosed. In accordance with the main principles of Accounting Standard 1, the following are the disclosure requirements. First, an enterprise should disclose all those accounting policies which are significant and at one place and as a part of financial statements. Also, the enterprise should not give in specific disclosure if fundamental accounting assumptions are followed. For example, if an enterprise has prepared their accounts following going concern concept, then no specific disclosure is required, but negative disclosure is required if not followed. In respect of change in accounting policies, disclosure is required if it has a material effect in the current period. In fact, the amount by which any item is affected, it is also disclosed. Also, if it is reasonably expected to have material effect in the later period, next, where the quantum of effect is not ascertainable, the fact should be disclosed. Now let's summarize all the discussion. First, generally accepted accounting principles include all those regulatory provisions which are available in the form of principles, concepts, conventions, guidance notes, standards, rules, act, laws, etc. Accounting concepts lay down the foundation for accounting principles. The accounting concepts are broad working rules for all accounting activities, from recording to interpretation, and have been developed by accounting profession. Next, business entity concept recognizes that business and owner are two separate and distinct entities. This concept requires recording the transactions from the firm's point of view and not of the proprietor. Now let's come to dual aspect concept, which recognizes that there are two aspects of each and every transaction. Then the cost concept, which indicates the measurement base that is used in accounting, particularly for fixed assets. Going concern concept, which advocates that the enterprise has neither the intention nor the necessity of liquidation or curtailing materially the scale of the operations. Money measurement concept, which provides that only those transactions and events are recorded which can be measured in terms of money. Accounting period concept, also called as periodicity concept, a small but workable fraction of time is selected out of the infinite life cycle of the business entity. This period is called as accounting period concept. Next, the accrual concept, which recognize the revenues if they belong to the relevant accounting period, irrespective of whether cash or cash equivalent has been received or not. Now the realization concept deals with the timing of recognition or of revenue. For example, when goods are given on approval basis in time 1 and approved in time 2, then a doubt arises as to the period when they recognize the sales. This question is answered by the realization concept. Matching concept articulates that in order to determine the profit or losses accrued in an accounting period, the expenses must relate to the goods or services sold during the period. So matching concept requires the matching of expenses with periodical revenue and period. Now come to convention of conservatism, also called as prudence, argues not to anticipate the profits but to recognize the expenses unless there is remote possibility of their occurrence. As per this convention, the revenues are to be recognized only when they are reasonably certain losses are to be recognized as soon as they are reasonably possible. Convention of consistency states that the same accounting policies should be adopted over different accounting periods. It helps in better understanding of accounting information and makes accounts more comparable. Convention of full disclosure requires that all the economic activities of a business entity should be completely and understandably reported in the financial statements. And now we come to convention of materiality, which permits the other concepts to be ignored if the effect is not considered material. This convention is an exception of full disclosure principle. Any information is said to be material if its knowledge might influence the economic decision of the users. This is a subjective and relative term.